ad accounts go wrong. Hi, I'm Greta, founder of Bringing Simplicity. And once your audience is warmed, sorry, the next part is making me giggle a little. Once your audience is warmed and your back end is ready, we talked about that in the last episode. This is the phase that separates guessing from growth. Today, we want to show you how we test what's going to work before we do anything else. And we promise it's the best $40 you'll ever spend. And it's how we find messages that convert.
Yeah, absolutely. And what happens when people come to us, Greta, is they say, they're like, oh, I've been testing, or my last ad agency was testing this, or if they've never ran ads, they're running, they're basically posting content and sending emails and text messages to their audience. And I'm like, I'm testing this new offer. I'm testing what it should be called. I'm testing all of these things. And what they're doing is testing too many things. And so what our starter test does is really tests the main thing. Like we say, like, keep the main thing, the main thing. And Greta's going to get into like what that specifically is. But what we do, because if you're doing all those things, that's great. Testing, by the way, we love testing. We love testing. We love asking your audience. We love polls. We love doing those things. But we can get the same information that will take you weeks in hours. And for, like Greta said, $40. So would you rather spend about 6 weeks asking your audience and waiting for them to respond? Or would you rather throw $40 and get your answers tomorrow? Right? So you're not making, and by the way, you're not like popping out like a bunch of new creative. You're not really like looking at like new audiences. You're not even, and this is all, by the way, in the ads manager. You're not like creating new offers. You're not creating a bunch of new landing pages. And when you do all of that, you find out weeks later, like, oh, this is what works. This is what my audience wants. But you don't actually know like why they want it. So not only does our starter test tell you what your audience wants, it tells you why they want it, so you can continue to nurture and put the psychology behind that ad creative or those organic posts that you plan on posting too. It works for both. Our clients then take that information and use it for their organic strategy as well. And so now you know what exactly to fix. So starter tests are designed to quickly identify which of your messages resonate most with your specific audience that you're trying to target, right? I just watched a video, Greta and I just watched a video, Maria went and she was like, no, like we segment our audiences. Like this audience would never know that I was running a new offer. Like it was never known to my audience that I launched like this one where she like gave like what 50 people could buy her $5,000, or I don't even think it was 50 people. Wasn't it like 20 people could buy her $5,000 bundle for like all of her offers for the entire year, all 50 offers or something like that. I didn't see that ad, so I wasn't a part of that isolation, obviously. But you're testing one variable at a time. And it's typically the message that resonates the most. And Greta's going to explain how we rapidly test this approach and what we're trying to understand, because she is the person behind all of the data in regards to these tests.
I was going to say, this is probably one of my favorite parts of
I
ads.
know.
So starter testing is controlled learning. We're ultimately isolating a variable, which in this case is typically our headline, our hook, or the angle we're going to take with your ads, and we test them intentionally. Not to win, so we're not trying to get sales yet, but to understand. So again, I want to emphasize what Judy said before. We're not testing creatives. We actually use a specific block setup that's like designed to psychologically draw your eyes to the text, because we're testing your messaging. And we want to look at what language makes your cold audience stop and ultimately click through to the next page. What framing reduces resistance, which we can see that when we have a higher click-through rate, and what problems do they recognize immediately. And the reason that I love this is that so much of marketing can feel like you need to have this like sixth sense and be like in tune with your ideal client. But the reality is it's very hard for us to know exactly what they want even when we prep our sprint tests, I usually test myself to see if I know which one's gonna be the winning one. Sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm not. So, what we allow this starter test to do is to show us what that winning language is going to be, so then we can weave that through everything. So before we get into how we create the text that goes into there, go ahead and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another ad strategy breakdown.
Yeah. So, just to reiterate what Greta said, starter testing reduces your ad waste at the beginning. So then you're not like, you know, basically spending a bunch of money, right? Because we hear that we're like, oh, now I just burned ad dollars. Not saying you won't burn ad dollars, but this helps mitigate that at the beginning. You're being very sensitive, right, with your ad budget at the beginning. And so this leaves no assumptions. Like Greta said, you're not making emotional decisions, because a lot of times clients will come to us and be like, I want to call it this cute little name or whatever. And I'm like, and Greta and I are like, we've been in marketing for a really long time. I don't think that's like gonna hit. And like,
Nobody knows what that means.
yeah, like that could mean so many things, you know? And so like, are we trying to target this or this? And this allows us to say data. Just like with anything, you're not having emotional decisions. And as you guys know, I run a lot of our hiring ops part of our business. And so when I'm bringing things to our team saying like, hey, this, because this wasn't completed on time or this wasn't completed at this quality level, I'm not like making an emotional decision towards the person, right? Towards the person. And it's the same thing here. A lot of times we are tied to something because we've had this, emotional attachment to it, but the data is the data, no matter what you call them. So we look at the data, and they are simplicity wins. So when we're looking at the data, we're like looking for our winning starter tests, headlines, captions, whatever you want to call them, right? And what we're doing is we're trying to see if they meet all three of these criteria. And this is how we know we want to move forward. And sometimes we get 2 wins, sometimes we get 1, sometimes we get multiple, and we're like, oh, let's run it again. Let's run it again because they're too close. So they have first reached 400 impressions. Okay, you're looking at this, by the way, in your Meta Ads Manager for you guys who are like, where do I look at this data? Everything's still in the Meta Ads Manager that we're talking about. So all in one place. You've achieved your CTR, which is click-through rate of 2.5% or higher. And then you have maintained a CPC below $1, right? So cost per click below $1. So those are the winning ones. And basically we just have our team go through and identify what those are. And then we take those, and what Greta said, like as far as creative, those are the headlines, those are the captions. We take those hooks, and that's what we use to create your ad scripts that you're going to say. We're usually creating, variable ad scripts. And then also all of the images, right? So there'll be images, even carousels, if that's like something that you want to create as well. You don't have to. We're fine with starting any ads with just static, and then we add in videos, honestly, later. So then it's like, where do you send people, right? So then the next, which we'll get into in the future ones, is okay now, because sometimes actually, Greta, when we're doing this, people come to us with a new offer idea, a new lead magnet idea, a new webinar, idea. And they're like, maybe I need to do this because my audience is fatigued, or, whatever the case is. So then we take all this, and this allows us to then know what to put in the creative, know what to put on the landing page. So again, you're not doing a bunch of that work. And now you're excited, right? Because by the way, people come to us. I just had a call yesterday where somebody was like, I don't like creating content. Like that isn't, I'm like, nobody likes like,
Nobody does.
Nobody likes is like, I cannot wait to build this landing page. Like, oh my gosh, I've been dreaming about building this landing page all night, right? Although maybe some people.
I was gonna say, I do actually sometimes think about it.
Maybe every once in a while, but
it's like when you have to do it every single day, like any task is gonna get tedious, and like that is our job as entrepreneurs. Right. So yeah.
And the point I'm trying to make is, that once you know you have data behind it and you know this is like what's going to get them to convert and buy or register, think about how much more excited you're going to be having your team do this because you're putting the money behind them creating these for you, right? Or your marketing agency. And two, like how excited you're going to be that you're going to get people results, right? So when you have all that, then your team gets super excited because they're like, oh, because how many times have your team come to you and you're like, oh, go run with this idea, and they come back and you never use their like you never use their landing page and you never use their creatives? This will minimize that. Not saying that you won't ever, because it's a design thing, but this helps reduce that. And so not only is it reducing ad waste, Greta, like we said at the beginning, but it's reducing all waste. It's reducing all operational waste. It's reducing, you know, your time, personally as a CEO, founder, owner, and your team's time as well. So there's always it's always a gamble when it comes to ads, right? We're always like, you know, it's always a test, but this reduces that in regards to whatever it is that you're doing. So if you haven't started doing starter testing in your ads, or if your agency isn't doing them, make sure you send them this video, and I'm sure they'll be able to knock it out in no problem. But next video, which I know some of you have already done this because I talked about it in the last video, but we're going to talk more, and you're probably like, Judy and Greta, why do you keep honing in on this? Because I think it's super, super important. People come to me, and even now, Greta, I'm getting DMs where it's like, oh, should I start running ads? Because like they're seeing our posts, and they're like, should I start running ads now? Super simple. Now that Maria Went says I should run $5 a day ads, Judy and Greta, can you help me
we're experts
run?
now.
Yeah, all of a sudden, everybody wants to do $5 a day ads. But there's so much that has to be done before you're running those ads. And it's not only lead magnets, but we're going to dive into that and all the other things in the next episode. Greta, is there anything else like you would say for this episode of like starter test do's and starter test don'ts, like a one do and a one don't before we end this episode?
Oh, Judy, we could talk through so much. Okay, starter test don't allow your personal emotional thoughts on your marketing to influence what it is that you're testing. Ultimately, we test 12 headlines or hooks that touch on different pain points. And like I said, usually I have ones that I think or want to be winners, but I have to let go of that. I'm going to let the data show me.
I mean, we want everything to be called like pink and simplicity.
Exactly. So do trust the process. And then I would say don't ever run any type of campaign without sprint testing. Basically, we've tried to do it when we were on like a rapid timeline and we didn't think we had the 24 hours. I don't know. It doesn't even take that long. The 24 hours to run the sprint test. And every single time we do it without a sprint test, which is, I say every single time, I'm dramatic. That's like maybe like the 3 times we've done it without it. The results, like it ends up being ultimately wasted spend because you have headlines that have low click rates, which ultimately leads to less leads. It's all a domino effect. So do make time to do the starter test.
Does it matter?
Don't skip the starter test, I guess is.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at don't, apparently.
Yeah. Is there ever a time, does it matter which day they do it?
No, you can do it any time of day. I do typically say any day of the week. I do typically say that I don't like to start a starter test after 9 p.m. because we're only spending between $30 and $40, and I don't want the bulk of that budget to spend overnight. Unless you have insomnia people as your ideal client, then you might want to.
True. I mean, you might. Or if you're, I guess if your audience, I mean, depends on the location too,
yeah,
right?
that's true too. If you're like, yeah,
and you're targeting a certain country, that could be something for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.